Hi, I'm Mike Crabb.
And I'm Lori Schultz. Welcome to the show.
We'll have some caffeinated conversation.
And maybe some special guests along the way.
Who knows where the conversation will go? You're out for coffee with Mike and Lori. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Out for Coffee.
With Mike and Lori. And I'm Lori.
Are we doing that every time, too?
Just in case there's any questions. Well, we'll do it sometimes.
All right, we'll figure it out. Until one day I do it, and then we'll really
just
confuse people. So for those of you who are just joining us, welcome. Please check out our first episode where we kind of introduce ourselves a little bit and how this whole podcast experience came to be. But we hope that you continue to join us for our future episodes. We're going to ask you, if you are joining us for coffee and you're having your coffee this morning, please share a photo on our social media pages and tag us in it, because we would love to see what you do when you have your coffee with us. You get a nice little cozy corner of your house, you go for a walk with family pet, whatever it is, share with us. Unless you're driving, wait till after you're driving, then share with us, please. So last week...
Maybe your pet's driving. What if your pet's driving and you're drinking coffee or making coffee for your pet?
Well, then we need them on as a guest.
I'm sorry.
That's an episode.
I haven't had enough
of
this yet. Sorry. It is. It really is. Sorry, Mike.
That's all right. So on our last episode, we shared some fun stories about our theater experiences, and that kind of led us into our next topic, and where we want to share some of our more embarrassing moments with you guys. I have a couple. Lori has a ton. So I don't know, Lori.
Yeah,
when I say to you, tell me one of the most embarrassing things, something that has never left you, that you think about and it makes you go, yeah, just thinking about it. What is it?
Well, Mike, can I be honest with you for a second?
Are you
just
ever
once?
Not? Yeah.
I'm going to lie to you the rest of the time.
Okay.
But right now, I'd like to be honest and tell you, very few things ever embarrass me. Like things that people would think, oh my God, I'd be mortified. I'm like, whatever. Just as long as you spell my name right. I don't care. But I'll tell you about one thing that should have embarrassed me to death, but nobody was there to see it. And it was such a waste of an adventure.
Okay.
When I lived in an apartment, it was in the main floor of a house. I was on my way to school, where I teach, and I was going to be bringing some things for my students. I had some leftover, like a whole bunch of chocolate milk, and I had some cookies from Costco, those really nice, soft cookies from Costco.
Like the pack that comes with like the three, it's like a Neapolitan of cookies. Oh.
Yeah, it is.
Love it.
So I had my arms full. I had my laptop, I had my purse, I had like 3 things of chocolate milk, and I had these cookies, and I had 3 little steps that went down to the driveway. Now, there were no railings. And so in my zealousness, can I say, to get to the car to start distributing cookies and milk products, I went down the steps. However, I wasn't centered on the steps. So I went to step down and my one foot went into the garden. And I stepped on, we had a glass terrarium. I broke it. The terrarium was just shards of glass. And I almost did like this head over heels tumble thing. And I was lying in the garden. I had broken a couple of shrubs. I was all scratched up, lying there in just a pool of chocolate milk, cookies, and shrubbery. And it was the best. And I'm looking around thinking, oh, please tell me somebody saw that. And it was like 7 o'clock in the morning, and there was nobody around to see it. And I'm lying there. And this is the time where I was in between cell phones. So I couldn't even call the neighbors upstairs for help. So I'm just lying there, like in this broken heap of shrubbery, thinking, this would probably mortify somebody. I had chocolate milk in my hair. It was the best thing ever. And I was just so sad that nobody taped it. Nobody saw it. And only I can tell the story. See, now, would that not embarrass you?
I know for a fact it would embarrass me. But I
just wanted someone to see it.
I like that your takeaway was the disappointment that was a you moment and a you moment alone.
That's the disappointing part, is that, you're right. It has been left with me, but I'm the only one who can enjoy this, other than the story I can tell.
I guess if you're gonna eat it, you might as well show it and like let people enjoy that moment with you. You're not wrong. There is a message. There is a message there.
There are
And you
other
still
things.
smell
I'll
like
let you.
chocolate milk.
Do I?
Yeah.
But is it rancid chocolate milk at this point?
Well,
If
we're
I
getting
smell like
there.
just chocolate, I'm happy with that. But if I smell like rotten milk, could you tell me?
Hey, rotten milk. Guess what? I have a story.
Oh, do tell.
Were you done with yours? Because that segues actually perfectly into mine. Oh,
Well, this is good. So, as you were, son.
So,
Son, you're my son now.
all right, adopted. It's
As you
happened.
were.
I'm Jerk
little
Jr.
boy.
So, in my time, I was a general manager at Joe Fresh, and it was a standalone store. So this Joe Fresh was in a mall, not like in grocery stores like most of them are. But I was had just started as a general manager at the Bramley City Center. So this is in Brampton, and I'm there. And I've probably been there about 2 months, and like we're getting into things, and there's a routine happening, and it's kind of a slower night. And I'm going through the back counter behind cash. Everyone dumps stuff at cash. If you work in retail, back cash is where all the returns go, all the damages go, and it turns into this like big heap of stuff that you're always trying to fight to put back. So I'm looking at it, and the back cache is kind of clear. So I'm like, well, let's go through the cupboards, open it up, and there's a lost and found in there. And I'm like, all right. So maybe been a while since anyone's gone through here. So I bring it out, and I'm going through it. And there's lots of stuff in there. I'm asking the employees that have been there for quite a while, when was the last time we went through this? Nobody has any idea. And I said, well, let's get rid of it. So I'm going through. I pull out this Hello Kitty metal water bottle. And it's like one of those ones where the top slides back and a straw pops up. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, huh. And all I do is this. I just go and give it the tiniest little shake. And then all of a sudden the top on it goes, poof, pops open, and sour milk explodes out of the straw and sprays all over the cash registers. There's an employee.
God.
Her name's Mabel. Mabel was on cash. And she went, because the pop was so loud from all the pressure from this sour milk. And she
That
looks
is
over at me,
disgusting.
and there's a lineup of customers, and she looks over at me, and I am dripping with sour milk. It's in my beard. And that's what starts happening. So I start to do the, okay, I need to go to the back. And I can feel it coming up. So I went to the back. I took care of business. I knew I had to come back to the cash registers to clean this mess
Disgusting.
up, which is now inevitably just radiating all over the store. The customers are laughing their butts off and gagging at the same time because it really was that rancid. And another thing, if you've ever worked retail, is how dirty the cash registers get, because there's all these nooks and crannies around the tills where all this dust builds up and stuff. So just like dusty, sour milk cleanup. And now, in all fairness, the customers were very polite and checked on me and made sure I was okay, and offered to go get me some clothes off the shelf so I could change. But I will never forget what it felt like to be covered head to toe in sour milk.
Do you generally have a weak stomach, or are you pretty solid?
I guess it depends on what it's for. If it's a particularly scenty scent, if it's particularly stinky, I struggle. If I see something that's gross, maybe not so much, but if there's a smell attached to it, I've hit my limits.
Okay, because there was an incident at one of the jobs I used to have. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to get into where it was or anything. But let's just say, and this is the honest to God truth, I had to cut up poop in the toilet with a fork. Sorry, not a fork, a knife. A bread knife.
Don't.
To make it go down.
Oh, no.
Not even kidding.
Is this too much for a
Now,
morning
see-
podcast?
Listen, there's no visuals. I didn't take photos of it to
Thank
post to our
God.
socials.
Because you
Okay?
would.
This is your mind's eye that needs to take over here. Okay?
Well, somebody else's mind's eye took over, it sounds like.
Anybody who used to work with me knows exactly what I'm talking about in that situation. But to be told, you need to go to the kitchen and get a knife and cut that up so it'll go down.
Oh, my God.
It wasn't mine. Just so you know, it was not mine. That's kind of where my my threshold was. Now, to be fair, we didn't keep the knife. It did not go in the dishwasher and back into the drawer.
Hallelujah.
So put that out of your mind right now.
All right.
It went under the sink in the bathroom as the poop knife.
Oh my God! A designated knife.
A designated piece of cutlery for the occasion should it arise again.
Okay, so
And
not
we were
that
trying
this,
to prevent the water from arising. See?
so not that this is ever
Gross, huh?
something I thought I would have to problem solve around or anything like that, but one would tell me that maybe it would be appropriate to throw the poo knife away and buy a whole new knife to deal with that situation should it happen again. I don't know if it needs to
Oh, it happened
happen.
again.
Oh,
This was a regular occurrence, Mike, but that was the first time I had to deal with it.
oh my goodness.
Okay?
I,
So we're not going to... Yeah. Okay, now I have a much stronger stomach than my brother.
all right.
If I can just really quickly share, I've alluded to the fact that sometimes I have a rotting pumpkin on my porch for several months of the year.
Okay, and I'm just going to slip in for a second. So for those that don't know, this is a sport to Lori. She very much loves Halloween so much that she doesn't want to see it die, and it literally lives... Her Halloween lives on her front porch, and I did a drive-by last week, and the Santa hat has melted off of the pumpkin and is now sitting on top of a pile of orange mush on your front lawn, on your front porch. Is it gone now?
Yeah, it did.
Oh, you got rid of it!
Uh-oh, I'm hearing that my internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you've been fine. We lost you for a minute there.
Okay.
Like I felt like you just couldn't hear. So tell me about your brother and his weak stomach.
It's not my internet connection that's unstable, I can tell you that. Let me have another sip first. Yes, my brother. First of all, about the pumpkin again. Yeah, it's Halloween that lives in my heart all year long, but also I know it bothers people. And it's kind of a spite sport for me as well.
Oh, spite
So, sorry neighborhood, but it's a spite sport. Yeah, thanks. Coined it. Royalties to me. Anyway, so my brother, many years ago, my mom had pumpkins that she had grown in her backyard, and they were ready early. Like, these pumpkins were ready to pick at the end of August. So they kind of sat outside in the garage just to keep them out of the sun so they'd be ready for Halloween. My brother, who has an incredibly weak stomach, was helping his youngest daughter clean out the pumpkin.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've laughed so hard in my life. Because he's in there trying to be a tough guy, macho guy. I can do this. No big deal. It's just a pumpkin.
Yeah.
And he's scooping out what's kind of liquefied now inside this pumpkin. And he's going... He just can't. He can't even do this pumpkin. And this was probably, I don't know, 8 years ago. And anytime anybody mentions pumpkin pie, or whatever, I'll just maybe give him a look and go, and so it's kind of the family joke. Oh. And even the noise of me mimicking him getting nauseous makes him nauseous.
Oh my goodness.
So again, another little sport for me.
Yeah.
It's fun.
You got
it.
all sorts of hobbies.
Yeah. That I do, Michael. That I do.
Oh, I love it.
Do you have anything else that was somewhat embarrassing? Because, I've got a list. We could do a whole 8-part series.
Well, maybe we do. And then maybe what we do is we do a reenactment thing and we do a YouTube channel where we just reenact these embarrassing moments. I will push you down the stairs into your garden onto your broken shrub, and we can recreate that.
Into my puddle of pumpkin goo?
Yeah, exactly. So much like you, Lori, it takes a lot to embarrass me. It doesn't really, I don't know. I got a good sense of humor, I like to think, and not much does embarrass me. I more get embarrassed out of empathy when I see somebody else get embarrassed. That's when I start to feel it more, funny enough. But there was one day in particular where I live in an apartment building, and I woke up early one morning to take the dog down to go to the bathroom, and I was super groggy. And when I came back up, I come in, I walk into my apartment, but I'm kind of looking down at the dog, and I look over and I go, why is there a cat in my apartment? And then all of a sudden I hear somebody go, hello? I walked in to the wrong apartment.
You were in the wrong place?
I was in my neighbor below. I accidentally went to the wrong floor. I think what I did, I think I hit the right button, given I was a little like morning groggy, I think I hit the right button, but like maybe somebody
Yeah.
on that floor hit it and it stopped on the way up, and just like in autopilot mode, I sauntered off. But this cat was full like, you know, spooky Halloween cat where their hair's all up because it's like looking at Prudence being like, what the hell are you and why are you in my home? Just to hear this first. So all I did was go, I'm so sorry. I'm in the wrong place. And it, like the door was closing as I was saying I was in the wrong place. And I ran down the hall and I took the stairs because I was afraid to wait for the elevator again and they were going to come out. So
No
maybe
kidding.
they're listening. Maybe they're here.
this
I
is a lesson.
apologize. There's a lesson.
A lesson
And-
to those at home. Lock your doors, man. Mike could end up in your living room.
Yeah, I could accidentally walk in with my heavy breathing dog, and it can make you nervous. So what we've had to do since is we have a nice welcome sign on our door. We had to put up a welcome sign on our door, so I know if I go to a door that's not doesn't have a welcome sign or a different sign, I probably shouldn't go in
Poor
there.
Mikey. A "You Are Here" map in your little building with
Yeah.
a dot right at your apartment.
And I have to have a map to carry around with me too, because I have to have it in front of me. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Orienteering with Mike.
So don't walk in on your neighbors. I don't know what this person looks like.
No.
I hope they never know it was actually me. There was a moment where I was gonna write them a card saying I am so sorry, and like put like a $5 Tim card in there because I felt so bad, and just like slide it under their door and run. But I chickened out from that and I didn't do that. So now it's forever a secret.
Well, that was a giant misunderstanding, right?
It certainly was. I hope they saw it that way too.
Yeah.
They probably moved
I
because they're
have a
like, there's no
misunderstanding.
privacy here. What?
That's right. Some strange guy, but I definitely have a misunderstanding that is the stuff of legend. I have friends who've heard the story. This happened years ago, and it's like, you know, when you're sitting around the fireplace, Grandpa, tell us the time when. This is Lori. Please tell us that time about the X-rays. This is one where I was a little embarrassed, just a smidge, but it made for a much better story.
Okay.
So I'll take it, right?
Tell me.
So years ago at the gym, clearly it was years ago at the gym, I had an injury where I blew out both of my knees.
Oh.
We'll talk about the gym because I have another embarrassing gym story that's probably the best story I could ever have. But
lovely.
this is a little bit of a follow-up. So I blew out both of my knees, and I've had knee trouble ever since. And so a few years ago, my doctor sent me to the hospital to get some x-rays. So I go in to where, you know, they put you up against the backdrop there, and there were two women. One was working the board behind the screen. The other one was getting me into position. And she was asking me, what happened to your knees? So I told her the story. Maybe like 30 seconds goes by, and she says to me, so are you seeing anyone? And I'm thinking, wait a minute. First of all, I'm thinking, well, I'm flattered. That's really nice. You have the wrong plumbing for me. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just you're not really my type. So I said to her just that. Actually, no, but I'm flattered. And you have the wrong plumbing for me. And she looks at me, and then she said, I meant someone about your knees, a specialist. And I went, oh. And the woman who was working the board in the back was dying. And she said,
bet.
in all fairness, it did sound like you were trying to pick her up. I'm like, so that would probably have just mortified somebody, but I was like, you know, that's actually going to be a good story. So
That's a
I'll
pretty
take
funny
it.
story.
I
That
will
time
take it.
that you almost got picked up by somebody who didn't want to pick you up.
That's right. And I just
They were just
assumed
doing
that I
their
was
job.
being, they were just hitting on me, and I was just assuming that, well, who wouldn't want to? Come on, look at this.
Yeah. Especially
right.
this girl, she's
Come
fresh
on.
out of the gym. Yeah, she's dateable. Let's go on a date. Right?
Wrong plumbing, but that's okay.
It's all right. You'll figure it
There's
out
nothing
later.
wrong with that. It's just not for me.
It's not for you.
And that was okay. But I was very flattered. And it turns out that I was also very narcissistic because that had nothing to do with what she was talking about.
Right.
But it does make for one heck of a podcast story, doesn't it?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob.
Thanks.
Everyone say hi, Rob. Hi, Rob.
Remember Rob? Tech
Rob,
Wizard
Tech-
Rob in the background?
Hey, Tech Wizard
Tech
Rob.
Wizard Rob.
How are you, Rob?
I am well, and how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good,
Hey,
good.
you got any embarrassing stories that are worth
Well,
sharing?
it's funny you mention it. I spent my career working in an office environment, and in one particular office I was working in, they had a snack bar off in the corner of the office. One of those things where somebody goes to the Price Club and buys a bunch of chocolate bars and et cetera, et cetera. And so there's stuff there, and you put money in a little cash jar. Well, this little cash jar would accumulate over time. So at one point they decided they wanted to get a little bar fridge, and they took money from the cash jar and went and bought this bar fridge so we could have cold pop, et cetera, at this little snack bar. And it was also agreed that around the group of us in the office, we would take turns to do sort of the maintenance, if you will, of this little snack bar. Just make sure things are cleaned up and we're not leaving a mess anywhere. And one of those jobs in that responsibility was every couple of months we had to defrost this little freezer.
Little
That
ice
was part
box?
of this. Yeah, that was part of this little bar fridge thing. Well, it came around. It was my turn to look after things, and I went over and take a look at this bar fridge. And I'm sure by this point nobody had touched this bar fridge in months and months. And so I opened up the little freezer on the top, and it is just like jam packed full of ice, just jam packed full of ice.
Right.
Now, after the fact, my wife would tell me that a smart man would have maybe boiled some water in a pot and set it inside the fridge to let the heat melt this ice. I don't have near that much patience. And so I found myself a knife, and this happened to be a steak knife. So, a very sharp knife with a very sharp point on it.
Right.
And one afternoon, I decided I was going to remove the ice from this ice box, and I took this very sharp-pointed knife, and I started to, hit it with the heel of my hand against the ice that had built up in this little bar fridge thing. Well, of course, you probably see this coming. That little sharp-pointed knife went right into the wall of this freezer. It's just thin metal, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I get pointed directly in my face this spray of Freon or whatever kind of gas is inside a fridge to make it cold.
Yeah.
Well, of course, needless to say, I have now destroyed this fridge because with a hole in the the wall of this freezer, it's not going to contain the gas. And
No, it can't stay cold.
no, it's not going to stay cold, et cetera, et cetera. And so now I have the very unpleasant responsibility to report to all my coworkers that
That you done goofed.
yeah, this little bar fridge that we have, carefully collected little money from the sale of the chocolate bars and whatnot is now basically a very large paperweight, and cost me a chunk of money out of my pocket to replace that fridge.
Warm lunches for everybody, courtesy of Rob.
Yeah. So
With a side order of Freon.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That was my embarrassing story with the knife.
Oh, gosh. Well, that's a good knife story. Well, and I have a scary, similar story to Lori's. But perhaps that one is for another day. I think we've hit our limit with that particular theme of stuff. But maybe one day you'll hear another embarrassing story about something like that. But everyone, I'm getting to the bottom of my coffee here. I think we are all ready. How are you doing, Lori? You almost done your coffee for the day?
I've got a little bit left in here, but I can power through this all day, Mike.
Do you
That's
have
all
another?
I drink all day is just
well,
coffee
let's get to the bottom
after
of your coffee. Are you sure you haven't had enough? You're talking an awful lot.
What are you talking about, Mike? What do you mean?
How about before we do our lead out, do you have one more embarrassing story you'd like to share with us, Lori?
Well, I can share one about coffee really
Do it.
quickly.
I love it.
I have others that I'll save for another day because I think these should stretch as long as possible because, I mean, it's just an endless pit. But I was at a Starbucks once in London, London, Ontario, not London, England. And I was at a Starbucks and I walked in, and this was before they started selling breakfast sandwiches. So I walked into this Starbucks and I was like, oh my God, it smells fantastic in here. So I went up to the barista and I said, hey, are you guys like cooking bacon in here? Because it smells so great. And she looked at me and she said, no, the motel next door is on fire.
Oh, no.
And I said, oh.
You were smelling something, cook.
It smells delicious.
Oh, no.
You know, the fire trucks and the police cars out in the parking lot really should have tipped me off if there was something else going on. But I just walked in almost like a cartoon. You know, when you see those the wave of smells.
Your feet are off the ground.
You know
You're
what I
kind
mean?
of
The
going along with them.
That's right. I'm floating. I'm floating towards this bacon smell because there's always room for bacon.
There is.
But hopefully it is actually bacon and not whatever's on fire next door in the motel. So,
Because every motel
Yeah.
has at least one room that's just packed full of raw bacon waiting to be cooked, right? Yes. That's what you were
waiting for someone to start a fire in that motel.
There you go. All right, everyone. That brings us to the end of this episode. So if you haven't yet, please share your morning coffee with us and tag us on your socials. And join us for our next episode where we're going to have a very special guest, a good friend of mine and Lori's. Lori, who are we having on?
We have the one, the only, Liz Wismer Van Meer.
Liz
Or Lizard,
Wismer.
as I like to call her.
Liz Wismer Van Meer, a wonderful human being with a great spirit, great attitude. You guys, if you don't know her yet, you're going to love her. So join us for our next episode where we're going to have Lori. So we look forward to our next time where you can come out for coffee.
With Mike and Lori.
Bye, guys. Do you have questions, comments, or ideas for a future show? Reach out to Mike and Lori on their social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Or email us at mikeandlorisocials@gmail.com.